I've been retained by the Chambers to represent Adacia. This happened late yesterday evening. As many of you know, tragedy struck Oklahoma yesterday morning around 10:30, 10:45, and Adacia subsequently was arrested and on a suspicion of DUI. I had an opportunity to visit with her family at length, and let me first say, first and foremost, that devastation is an understatement. It is the first word that came to mind. It is a word that continues to be echoed when visiting with the Chambers early this morning in the wee hours of the night. Everyone's absolutely devastated. There are absolutely no words that can express what Oklahoma as a state, what the city of Stillwater, the citizens of Stillwater is experiencing right now, and more importantly, the families of the victims that were lost, those that are fighting for their lives right now as we speak, those that will be recovering for the months and possibly even years to come. I had an opportunity to visit for about an hour last night with Ms. Chambers, and to the extent that I can, I'll be happy to share what, in my opinion, I gleaned from that interview with her. I've also had an opportunity to visit with those who were with her the night before. I had an opportunity to visit with those who were there present with her the morning of, prior to this horrible incident before it occurred. And I just want to say that on behalf of the Chambers, their thoughts and their prayers are with the family and the victims. They are absolutely devastated right now. They're beyond words. Calls that I've received from those who know Adacia as she is known are absolutely surprised that she's affiliated with anything as she's been affiliated with, arrested for. I do not know what charges she's actually going to be facing as we move forward. I have tried to reach out to the district attorney and I've yet to receive a response. My understanding is that she may be arraigned as early as tomorrow on some charges, but as we know, as these circumstances continue to unfold, other charges may be coming later in the future. But as of right now, I have no idea what she faces other than what's been communicated with reference to her suspicion of driving under the influence.
Mr. Coleman, do you believe that she was driving under the influence, or do you think there was something else at play?
I absolutely can rule out alcohol as a source of an intoxicant, if you will. I am certified and trained in DUI, DWI detection, and I know that without a doubt for someone to have been intoxicated to a point where their ability to operate a motor vehicle was impaired such that they could do what Ms. Chambers did on yesterday, at least the smell of alcohol would still be present some hours later. Although it was hours when I actually made it to Ms. Chambers, there didn't appear to be the smell of alcohol coming from her body. Her behavior was not consistent with someone who was coming off of a drunken stupor, if you will. So I am comfortable with ruling out alcohol. However, I do understand that there has been some circulation about their possible DUI drugs. That's yet another matter that we will never know about until we get a toxicology report.
Is that what you're waiting for, are the blood tests to determine exactly what might have been in her system?
If anything at all, but my concerns is that there was nothing in her system.
Can you talk about her behavior or her mental status at the time?
Absolutely, and again, without going into any great detail, my visit with her lasted the better part of an hour, and during that entire interview, I was not satisfied at all that I was communicating with a competent individual. I am not a psychiatrist, nor am I a psychologist. However, I'm currently representing several with mental illnesses, and in my opinion, Ms. Chambers suffers from a mental illness. Exactly what type is yet to be determined.
What did she tell you what happened? You said you even talked to her, you spent an hour with her, spoke with people that were with her the night before as well, the morning of. How did she describe to you what occurred here? What happened?
Well, interestingly enough, she doesn't remember a whole lot about what happened. There was a period where I think that, for a better lack of terms, she could have even blacked out. She only remembers, from what was communicated with me, the end of the crash, people removing her from the car, shards of glass being everywhere, and her being extremely confused while at the same time trying to maintain the ability to cooperate. To the best of my knowledge, by the time I made it to her, she had already cooperated with the authorities, shared information with them, and I'm sure that that information will be passed on to the district attorney for consideration of the appropriate charges that will be forthcoming.
Does she remember any part of that morning, going to work, leaving work? Why did she leave work?
Absolutely. And again, there are certain aspects of it that I can't and I will not get into at this point in time, but I will say that the night before, as we've now learned, the OSU homecoming is probably ranked among the top in the nation. As such, quite a few come from near and far to engage and participate in what's known as a walk-around. And I believe they just go sort of walking from neighborhood to neighborhood, observing and appreciating the decorations in celebration of the homecoming. On this particular evening, she was with her grandmother and her aunt. Both confirmed that she did not take any alcohol at any time. She's not a drinker. And to their knowledge, she didn't ingest any other types of intoxicants, whether it be amphetamines or barbiturates, anything of this nature. She didn't have. So, and then the prior morning, she went home, got up to leave for work. She was there with her live-in boyfriend at the time. An interview with him revealed that, again, she didn't have anything to consume that could be considered an intoxicant. She had trouble sleeping, obviously, which, of course, has been the case for quite some time. And she got up and made her way to work. At some point in time, while at work, she was supposed to be there at 9. She did, in fact, leave work. And from the time she left work until the end of the crash, there's a very, very dark area there that's hard to recall for her right now.
Was she on any prescription medications for anything?
None that we know of.
What is she being held on right now? DUI?
Well, again, we all sort of received the same information at the exact same time. The reports that came out that she was immediately arrested under the suspicion of DUI. Now, generally speaking, everyone seems to assume that that means alcohol, but we do have, especially in the state of Oklahoma, you can be under the influence of drugs, so that's a DUI as well. And I think that the police acted appropriately here, considering the circumstances, in making the assumption that there was something impairing her ability to operate a motor vehicle.
What is her reaction to the aftermath? 4 dead, more than 40 injured.
I asked that exact same question to her during my time with her, and I was not satisfied with the response, which is, again, why her competency is of great concern for me right now.
What was her response?
I'd rather not say.
Can you tell us, does she have a history of mental illness?
There is some history there, yes.
Can you tell us what the history is?
I'm learning as I move along, but there's a family history of it. There have been warning signs coming from Ms. Chambers for quite some time, for the past few years, to say the very least. And I think that, for the most part, those with mental illnesses engage in what we call strategies of concealment. They master the ability to conceal it. And I don't know if she was doing it willingly, or I don't know if she was doing it because she was unable to explain why she was feeling some of the things she was feeling. But there has been a pattern of behavior that probably should have been diagnosed and possibly treated long before yesterday.
Can you elaborate on some of those warning signs? Just help us understand that.
Well, one of the prime examples that I learned, it's been shared that there were several days that she would go without sleeping, a very uneasiness about her, uncertainty about her future, her perception about herself, her perception about what others thought about her, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not a psychiatrist or a sociologist or any of those things, but I do know quite comfortably, I feel, that when I've come in contact with someone who suffers from a mental illness, that she fits the criteria.
Do you believe she might be suicidal?
Absolutely.
Is she under suicide watch at the jail?
I was not informed that she was. And I'm not sure that at the time I visited with her that she was, but there was information shared that suicide was certainly something contemplated previously.
Are you going to be requesting a mental competency hearing or a psych evaluation?
That is the very first thing I'm going to do.
There are some reports from witnesses that saw her at the time of the crash that said she had a look of determination on her face, that she pretty much just gunned the car and went for the crowd. What can you say about that?
I can't comment on that. I've not spoken with those witnesses. What little bit of video that has been made available certainly doesn't reveal her or a picture of her behind the wheel of the car. The only thing that I've been able to see thus far is the tail end of the car as it came to its final rest. The previous reports that we saw and heard about bodies flying in the air and things of this nature, I didn't see any of that. So.
There's another witness too that said she looked upset, possibly crying when she left work. Can you comment on that?
Again, I can't comment on that. I've not spoken with that witness. I can only comment on the witnesses that I've spoken with and have confirmed that the night before she was not drinking, nor was she under the influence of any intoxicants, the same as the case yesterday morning.
Was she in good standing at work? Do you know how long she
As far as I know, I tried a couple of times to reach out to the employer, and as you can imagine, cases of this magnitude, they're sort of just wanting to get back to business. They really don't want to be involved. So I think that as the days and weeks move on, we'll learn more. But from what I gathered from others that were closest to her, they reported that she seemed to be very satisfied with her work. She was doing well at work. They enjoyed her being there. I didn't, gather anything from anyone that caused concern that she would go out and do something like this.
How was the relationship with her boyfriend?
It was good. Yeah, in fact, I visited with him at length last night as well too, and he shared exactly that. And you would probably have to get a more detailed account of their relationship from him, but the interactions I had with him last night, he said their relationship was very good. They're both from the same town. They moved to Stillwater. I think he moved there prior to her to pursue a degree, and she later came and joined him there, and they otherwise were doing well.
Now, was she asked to leave work, or did she leave after all 3 weeks?
Again, that's something that's kind of up in the air. When I visit with her, I was not able to get straight answers, and I'm sure that it was for a combination of reasons. I've heard that she was asked to leave, but again, my calls to try and confirm that have not been returned. My visit with her suggests that she left on her own.
So she left at 9 a.m., right, and the crash was around 10:30?
No, she was to arrive at work at 9 a.m. She left her house between 8:20, 8:30 so that she could be on time. She was always, from what I've been told, very punctual. She did, in fact, arrive to work in time, and within the hour, she left.
So she left possibly close to 10, roughly?
I don't know.
Now, there was a gap you referred to from the time she left work and that you said is unclear to you.
Well, from the time she left work until the conclusion of this crash, this incident, there's an area there where she doesn't remember much of anything. Wasn't able to communicate with me much at all about that.
Did she say anything to you in your conversation during that hour that she had made a phone call to her father saying that she wanted to come home while she was at work?
I didn't get that from her.
You were only able to speak with her last night, not this morning?
That's correct. I made my way to Stillwater about 8:45 yesterday evening, and I was there until after midnight. Now, mind you, that entire time was not spent in the city jail with her. I only spent about an hour with her. I spent the remainder of the time interviewing others, such as her boyfriend, etc., and I left Stillwater maybe around 12:30, 1 o'clock this morning.
Had she ever sought counseling or any sort of therapy growing up? Did her family ever seek anything like that for her growing up?
The information of that has been disclosed, yes.
Tony, a lot of people are painting your client as a monster, but that seems to me like you're saying that that's not what you saw.
Well, no, I didn't see a monster. I certainly didn't see anyone who had an intent to do anything. I can certainly tell you this, with all the talk about ISIS, etc., and when we hear about mass casualties such as the one that unfolded yesterday, one of the very first things that came to mind was that it perhaps was a terrorist act. And I think all of us, it's safe to say, went into a mode where we were wondering what the next move was going to be, and we waited with bated breath to for it to be revealed who the individual was. And then once we learned that, shortly thereafter, we started getting tidbits of information about Miss Chambers and her character. Number one, she wasn't a drinker. She wasn't a person known to do drugs. In fact, the only things that I've gotten from folks has been, these are Christian people. Her entire family are Christian people. She's Cherokee Indian. And they are very well known, loved, and respected in Oologah, where they're from. And thus far, I've yet to find anyone to say anything bad. So while I will agree what happened yesterday was absolutely devastating, there are absolutely no words for it, the person I met with last night did not resemble a monster by any means.
Can you share anything about just her past family relationship? Was she married previously, break up with a boyfriend, relationship with her dad? Normal things. I think that her relationship with her father is perhaps more intact than that is with her mother. She is very close to her father and her paternal grandmother. In fact, that's who she was with the night previously doing the walk around. She was with her paternal grandmother and her aunt on her father's side, one of her father's sisters. And that relationship is solid. I think that there was perhaps maybe some separation anxiety when she left Oologah to move to Stillwater with her boyfriend. But nothing unusual. It's pretty normal.
Tony, could this have been a suicide attempt by her?
Again, we could speculate about a lot of different things. I can't imagine that being a suicide attempt in the manner in which it was carried out. I don't see that. I see some other things that I'm not at liberty to say right now. I would much rather have those who are more qualified than I am, such as psychiatrists, etc., to do a mental health evaluation on her and let them reveal to us exactly what it is that she's plagued with. I'm simply saying that I'm satisfied, just based on my experience in having represented individuals with mental illnesses before, that she has the characteristics of someone that has a mental illness. It's just that simple. It really is.
Do we know if maybe she was diabetic and could have gone into a diabetic coma or low blood sugar or anything?
That is exactly one of the concepts that were introduced to me, and that was shared with me by her boyfriend. He actually shared that with me. He says she's diabetic. She's not being treated for it. So there are a lot of different things that are in play here that, as the weeks and months unfold, we will learn more. But one thing I'm satisfied of, and that was a little bit disappointing at the same time, was to learn that, in my opinion, that she was not drunk. I think some of the first reports that came out, as they talked about the parade, they talked about, this is an event where alcohol is known to be a part of it. There's tailgating going on and this and that and the other. And I thought that, in my opinion, it was kind of unfair because it gave a parade that has a historical content to it an ugly eye in that, oh my God, people get drunk and this is what they do. She wasn't drunk, from what I experienced. And I know it was several hours later, but she wasn't drunk.
Let's go back to this diabetes diagnosis. Do we know for sure that she's been diagnosed type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or is this just a guess by the boyfriend?
No, we don't know for sure anything right now, just as I'm saying with my hunch and my suspicions about the mental illness. She hadn't been diagnosed with that yet. This is just what I know. The boyfriend who lives with her tells me that she perhaps has been diagnosed with it. However, she's not being treated by any means. She's not taking insulin or any other form of medication to control that diabetes. But he did, in fact, share that with me, that she was diabetic and was not treating it, is what I was told.
What do her parents say about that?
I did, in fact, reach out to Dad, and he seemed to confirm it. Now, you have to understand, she hasn't lived at home for quite some time. And there's only so much they know about her as an adult. Although they were in constant contact with her, they don't know every single thing about her. For example, diabetics, when they start to show signs of it, there are symptoms that are associated with diabetes that if you're not there with them every day, or if they're not calling you and saying to you, hey, I'm restless, or I'm having some forms of neuropathy in my legs or something along those lines, you don't know what's going on. And they themselves may not even know what's going on. But all of these are areas that, in my opinion, as the weeks move on, we're going to learn more about.
Can you just talk a little more about that strategy of concealment that you said you feel that she displayed, or possibly for these symptoms, whatever they might be?
Well, again, without sounding as if I have a profound knowledge about psychology and things of this nature. However, there was a time when I had the opportunity to study it a little bit, and I do know that those that have mental illnesses, they engage in what's known as strategies of concealment, especially if they recognize that they are engaging in something or if they possess a certain characteristic that is not socially acceptable. They learn how to conceal that behavior. They learn how to mask depression. They learn how to shield anxiety and bipolar disorder and things of this nature. They learn how to conceal that. However, that is a short-term strategy that at some point in time it's going to break down. Tattletale signs will begin to emerge, and we'll see exactly what we're seeing right now, if in fact that is the case. And again, I will reiterate, the person I met with last night, I was not satisfied, was a competent, normally functioning individual. I just wasn't.
Did you ask what her diagnosis was? Did she get checked out by any sort of medical personnel at the crash site, at the jail, that could glean on whether or not she had low blood sugar or issues
No.
related to diabetic?
No, none of those. None of those have been taken into consideration. Now, mind you, again, I want to be extremely careful about how I address issues as it relates to law enforcement. I am not anti-law enforcement. I never have been. I never will be. I think their behavior yesterday was appropriate, again, under the circumstances. However, I think there was a very narrow focus there. Nothing has been revealed to me outside of that focus, but that focus seemed to be laser beamed in, if you will, on intoxication. None of the questions about mental illness, diabetes, or any of these other things were ever asked of her. I was able to get that out of her.
Have you not heard that, I've picked up on a rumor that she may be charged with manslaughter. I'm taking you've not heard that.
I've not heard that. Again, I tried to reach out to Ms. Thomas, and again, it being on Sunday, I've not gotten a confirmation on what charges will be forthcoming. There are a variety of charges that in the state of Oklahoma Ms. Chambers could face. We are looking at everything from possible murder down to negligent homicide. I myself don't see murder. I don't think the elements are actually there. However, I'm not the district attorney. I can see how she would be charged with manslaughter, but then I can also see how she'd be charged with negligent homicide as well.
Where did she work?
At Freddy's Frozen Custard there in Stillwater.
Can you provide, you mentioned separation, anxiety from her dad or from that side of the family. You mentioned she moved to Stillwater at some point to live with her boyfriend. Can you give any sort of timeline when, how long ago that happened, when she moved, just to help us understand?
I would say on or around 8 months or so. 8 months or so. However, I did not say separation from her dad. Her hometown is Oologah, okay? And leaving Oologah, coming to Stillwater, that's a move. And for some, it's fairly simple to do. But then for others who may have an illness or an issue, that can create anxieties. And not saying that that was the case yesterday, because she's been there for some 8 months now, living with her boyfriend. But aside from that, I don't know much more detail.
Been with the boyfriend a long time?
They have. They dated for a while, had broken up, and then they had reconnected and were in a relationship at this point in time.
How long will it take for the results to come back to see if there was any kind of anything in her system?
Your guess is as good as mine. I have cases that I'm representing individuals on right now that we're waiting on toxicology reports for. However, their cases are not near to the magnitude of this one. This one may obviously be put on a fast track for obvious reasons, and we could know within a few weeks. But again, I don't know.
Do you expect to be in court with her tomorrow?
I expect to be in court with her every single time she's required to appear.
Is there arraignment tomorrow?
As far as I know, it's been rumored to me that there is. Again, I've not received confirmation. I'm going to continue with my efforts to confirm that, and if that in fact is the case, I'll be there.
Besides the psychological evaluation, will you be seeking a doctor's evaluation, blood work, all of that?
All of these are among the realms of possibilities. We are going to obviously hire a separate and independent evaluator to examine her for her capacity, because I think that's appropriate. I've done that in several cases. Not to say that what the state has to offer will not be sufficient, but just wanting to make sure that the two kind of coincide with each other.
Now, has she been transferred to Payne County Jail?
To my knowledge, she had not. Again, I was there till late last night. I was told that she would either be transferred today or it could be as early as tomorrow morning, but she was still there in Stillwater City Jail when I visited her last night.
Okay, and we hear she might be in court tomorrow around 1 or 1:30. Do you know any clarification about that?
And if in fact that is the case, it'll be for an initial arraignment, and that obviously is just to answer to the charges and the correctness of name. But not knowing full well now what the charges will be, that may not occur tomorrow. It may yet be another day or so. That is a decision that is solely up to the district attorney there, Ms. Thomason, so we'll have to wait and see.
Will her family be there at the arraignment?
My guess is they will. They are very, very supportive, and they're going to stick with her. They don't have a reason not to, while at the same time being very sensitive and understanding what the families of the victims are going through right now.
Did she attend OSU at any time in her life?
No, she didn't.
Can you clarify the time frame of an arraignment, the legal statute for how long they have to file charges?
Well, again, you'll always hear people give different responses to that. They have time frames in which to work within. However, the district attorney at their own action can request additional time to formally arraign someone, and certainly on cases and charges that could be forthcoming as it relates to this matter would be a situation that would warrant extending that time out even further for an additional 30 days if need be, and possibly even 60.
You wouldn't be surprised?
I wouldn't be surprised at all, no. While at the same time, as I explained to Ms. Chambers, her bond would be denied. You can't imagine that she would be given a bond at this time.